Hello and welcome to my Propertymark One update following the fantastic presentation that Tim Bannister from Rightmove did in terms of how reduced properties perform in the market. Anyone watching this who has worked with me or listened to me on the podcast, etc., would have heard me talk about this data before. And I think that he's put this data from the last 5 or 6 years on steroids. So I just wanted to record a video to go through what it means for estate agents and how they can utilize this data day to day in their business to get properties priced more competitively, sell more properties, get the right sellers, charge the right fees, convert more business, all that jazz. So to start with, I will be looking down here because I've got quite a few notes that I've made on the data. But in terms of 5 years worth of data from Rightmove, they have found that he says that, and he doesn't have his list ready. Anything go wrong when you do this first take? So this was the May 2024 house price index from Rightmove. They were saying that on average, a property that is priced correctly from the outset is taking 32 days to sell. A property that reduces its asking price taking 112 days to sell, and on average, properties were taking 62 days to sell, so give or take 2 months. Now, from sale agreed to completion, Rightmove shared in the May house price index 154 days from sale agreed to completion. Now, I am recording this on the 25th of June. If you think on average it takes 62 days to agree a sale and 154 days to go through, that is probably taking you into 2025. So a really important message there for anyone who's wanting to move in 2024. Don't delay, get your house on the market now. Ignore the narrative around election. Come on to that in a second. Euro 2024, summer holidays, the Olympics. The list will go on. They'll wait for interest rates to go down. There's some really good data to back up, if it makes sense to move, do it and don't hold off. So yeah, the other stats we're going to go through. So I'm going to share my screen. So let's do this. Hopefully we're going to be seeing my screen now. So just to start with on the election, I said I'd go through it. You would have seen me speak about this before, but a survey that Rightmove did found that 95% of people planning to move home said the election will not impact their plans. If you haven't already got something out there, as we're in the run up to the election now, I would strongly recommend you put something out, blog content, social media, video, print marketing, to say, people are still wanting to make a move. If you're waiting for this to finish before making a decision, get in touch with us, we can help. And any agents that are using the election as an excuse, that's a really good example to target their properties and highlight this to those sellers as well. And if you look at the previous 2 elections, you can see there isn't a great deal that happens in terms of demand before or after the election. It does go up a little bit after the election, as you can see. So again, say to these sellers, let's get you on the market because there's going to be pent-up demand and people wanting to move once the election's out of the way. There is even more data around this, and if I haven't already sent it to you, please do reach out to me and I will talk you through what previous elections have meant for the property market. So if we scroll down and go to page 4, last bit actually, sorry, on the election, the rental market as well. Again, not a great deal that changes there, as you'd expect. Demand is always pretty high on the rental market. So again, any landlord saying, I'm going to delay until after the election, good example data there to get on with it. Now, on to the really exciting stuff for a data geek like me. So time on market has increased from 33 days to 64 days in 2 years. The proportion of price reductions has increased too, as you can see. So we're looking around about a third of properties at least are price reducing. So if properties are taking longer to sell, they're more likely to price reduce. That's a lot more time, vendor management on your part. So make sure you are being particularly choosy on the properties you decide to list, because it's going to cost you more money and it's going to cost you more time in listing those properties. I'm just going to quickly try and find something, and again, doing this in one take might make a struggle for me. So bear with as I go through this. But something I've got, here we go. There's 8 different points here. And I would say that you want to tick 5 or 6 out of these 8 boxes before you take on a listing. And in no particular order. Does the listing inspire you? Is it the right fee? Are you motivated to sell it? Will they allow you a board? What are their views on price? Are they a nice person to deal with? Because that's important. Will they allow you to promote it in the right way? So will they allow video tour? Will they allow exposure on social channels, Rightmove? Will they share it on their social channels? Presentation, are they going to allow you to present it in the right way, home stage it, etc., etc.? And then also, are they going to offer a marketing contribution as well? If you're investing all that money, knowing that it's taking a lot longer to sell and half the properties coming to market and not selling, maybe you want to get some upfront contribution as well. Some really interesting insight from Ian Preston at Preston Baker around likelihood of selling when someone pays money upfront. So I'd certainly look at Ian Preston and Preston Baker on that front, and Ian will be coming on the podcast in the near future as well. So watch this space. So yeah, so just to cover off that point, lots more price reductions happening compared to a couple of years ago. Property is on the market for longer. And this is some really powerful data here. I'd strongly recommend you use this in your marketing. So 5 years worth of data from Rightmove. Remember, one of the most visited websites in this country. The public absolutely love it. They're going to trust it, and it's third-party data. So non-reduced properties are 1.35 times more likely to be marked as sold, half as likely to fall through, take a third the amount of time to sell, and almost half as likely to be lost to a competitor. So a bit of role play here. I'm in someone's living room, and they're saying, I want to go on at 525 rather than 500. Look, that's going to be on top of the market rather than be in the market, Mr. Seller. You're actually 1.35 times more likely to sell if we get the price right from the outset, and that's why we want to be at this price. We're also half as likely to fall through. That's because, you know, it's high in demand, low in supply. The buyer feels like they've got a good deal. If it's got a reduced sticker on it, if something else comes along, they might jump ship and go to that. Of course, you want to sell quicker as well. Less time on the market, less stress in terms of getting the property viewing ready. And we know that properties that sell quicker tend to get a better price. Now, flip that from the seller perspective to the estate agent perspective, almost half as likely to be lost to a competitor. So reduced properties are twice as likely to be lost, twice as likely to change estate agent. So your prospecting strategy for on market should be to go after reduced properties. So I'm just going to flick over to Rightmove and Zoopla now to show you a couple of examples of that in action. So I'm on Rightmove here, and I'm just going to scroll through, and let's choose a particular listing. What should we go for? Let's choose this particular one on the Walton Road in Newport Pagnell. So it started at 1.35 million. It's now on at 1.25 million. So it's twice as likely to change estate agents. Now it's had a price reduction. If you look at that property, there is no video tour, there's no drone footage, there's no twilight. So that'd be a really good property to target and say, rather than reducing the price, have you looked at these potential marketing avenues? So that's one thing to look at. Now, the other thing you can do is look at Zoopla. So on the left-hand side, there's 115 properties showing as listings in Zoopla. If I click filters, then choose price reduced, update results, 47 of the 115 properties on Zoopla are showing as price reduced, and that's just under 41%. Now, what I can also do is change it from most recently listed to most reduced. So this is most reduced properties. You'll typically find retirement properties, flats. This one's an auction property. So there you go, retirement properties. But let's just keep scrolling and find a particular one. Let's choose this one. So listed on 12th of January, it's dropped 6.9% at 675. If I click into that, again, you can find it on Rightmove. Has it got a video tour, professional photography, drone, twilight, etc.? If I go and click onto that listing, start at 725, it's now dropped down to 675 on that particular property. So hope that's useful in terms of targeting reduced properties. If you want to discuss that in more detail, obviously I'll very happily have a further conversation on that. Right, so if you need to reduce, what works best? Because I think the data from Rightmove before was all around get it priced correctly from the outset, you're more likely to sell. All well and good saying that, and I'm sat in my ivory tower, but best in the world, some sellers are in no rush. They're not that motivated. They'll put it on a higher price and they're quite happy to just drop their price a few times. But this data now shows if you are going to reduce, this is the best way to do it. So, Mr. Seller, plan A, our strategy is to price here. This gives you the best chance of selling in the quickest time for the best price. Plan B is if you are looking to test the market, if it doesn't quite work out for plan A, this is what we need to do. So some really powerful data here. So if I go down to the next page, majority of agents are waiting many weeks to reduce the listing. So as you can see, typically price reductions or the most common time for a price reduction to take place is after a month or two. So again, those properties that are going to reduce are going to do so after a month or two. Try and get in their letterbox before they're about to reduce to show them that there is another way. I think there'll be a good chance of you getting a higher response rate from those sellers. And then the sales rate split by timing of reduction. The most likely you are to sell is if you are reducing in that first 4 weeks. So, Mr. Seller, we've tried it at 525. We're 4 weeks in. We haven't had the joy. I strongly recommend we adjust the strategy to offers over 500, a guide of 500, put us on a different price point, 11% more detailed views, etc., etc. Leaving it too late shows you do have a lower chance of selling. So again, share this data with them. Perhaps put it in your pitch, in your presentation when you're in the living room. The additional time waiting to reduce increases overall time to sell as well. So if you take 2 months to reduce a property, time on market is over 160 days for properties reduced after 8 weeks versus 79 days for the 2 to 4 week group. Again, Mr. Seller, you said that you want to get moved in time for Christmas or school catchment or job move. If we make the price change, we want to do it in the first month, not after 2 months. So again, some very powerful data there. Next page, almost 30% of reduced listings are reduced more than once. So on that Zoopla example, it was 41% in MK16. So for example, if my maths is right, that means a dozen properties on that page would have had multiple reductions. Well, if they're reduced, they're more likely to change estate agents. If they're reduced multiple times, arguably, they're even more likely to change estate agents. So reduced listings split by number of reductions. So yeah, as you can see there, it's just crazy how many are having multiple reductions. So average time on market for one reduction is 144 days. Sorry, more than one reduction is 144 days, should I say? And it's 94 days for ones that I'm just reading it again, that have had more than one reduction, and then ones that don't need a reduction of 33 days. So again, if you've got a strategy of we'll start at 525, then we'll drop to 510, 515, then we'll drop to 500, it's going to take so much more time. You've got to make a meaningful price change, which I'm going to come on to in a second as well. So yeah, you can see a lot of properties there having multiple price reductions, which you want to be careful of inside your own business, but it's a great strategy for targeting other agents' properties as well. Now, size of reduction is correlated with the likelihood of selling. This is a really interesting point because if I'm not mistaken, a 2% price change will mean an alert will go out on Rightmove, notification saying it's reduced. So on at 500, 2% reduction brings it to 490, although the next price point is 475. I see it many times every day where an agent has reduced by 2% just to get that notification go out. But as you can see from this data, the sales rate split by size of reduction, really you want to be making a meaningful reduction, which is 5%. So sales rate increased by 15% from reductions that were between 5 and 7% from the 0 to 2%. So when you make that phone call or Zoom call or going to see the seller, if you don't feel uncomfortable with the amount you're asking for a price reduction, you're not asking for enough. Make it a meaningful price change. And again, this is language that's being used from agent to agent. Of course, you're not going to use the word price reduction when speaking to sellers. Realignment, adjustment, repositioning, all sorts of different language there on that. Maybe go on to ChatGPT and say, give me some other words other than price reduction for when I'm speaking to a seller about changing their price. And again, the language I would have mentioned earlier, Are you on top of the market? Are you in the market? Or again, are you on the market or are you in the market? So it's all well and good that an agent can stick a property on Rightmove, so it's on the market, but are they actually being marketed? So just thought that'd be a powerful point there. So size reduction is hugely important. So if you are going to make that reduction, you want to do it in the first month and you want to be taking 5% off it. Best way to do that is to pre-plan that with the seller. Mr. Seller, if plan A is not going to work in a month's time, this is what we're going to be looking at. Put it in an email, put it into the agency agreement so they know what's coming. There's no shock to them on that. Now, demand is a strong indicator of whether a property will need a reduction. There is another slide I'm going to go on to with this as well, but you can see that the longer a property is on the market without an email inquiry coming through from Rightmove, the higher the chance of them needing a price reduction. Rather than waiting 2 weeks or a month and saying to a seller, oh, the market's a bit quiet, so summer holidays, get in there early and say to them, look, if you haven't had an inquiry in the first week, that means that there's a bigger chance we're going to reduce it or alter the price. We need to do it sooner rather than later, strike whilst the iron's hot and we've still got momentum on our side. Again, when you're in the living room, Mr. Seller, we need to make sure we price correctly, market correctly, get the right agent, right exposure, because how quickly you get inquiries coming in increases the chances you won't need to reduce your price and increase your chances of selling. So it's vital we get it right from the start. What's a classic saying? You do not get a second chance at first impressions. So the overview of this is very simple. Pricing competitively and not having to reduce is key, but where needed, the stats support decisive action. So if you're going to price reduce, do it in the first month. Only do it once, make it meaningful, so at least 5%, and do track the timing of demand on properties. So when are the inquiries coming in? And again, imagine sharing this kind of data with a seller in the living room before they make a decision. If you're one of 3 agents to go out, they're going to go, huh, they didn't just say, we'll whack it on Rightmove by the end of the day and we'll get you sold. You had a planned process, which is going to increase your chance of getting a business, work with the right people and get the fees you truly deserve as well. So that was the latest presentation from the exceptional Tim Bannister at Propertymark Conference. Another presentation he did the year before, which I'm going to go through now. So this data might be a little bit older, but just want to sort of capture the data. So time on market, non-reduced versus reduced listings. Sorry, I meant this one, number 5. So chances of selling. The gap is actually, I believe now, if you don't reduce, you have a 76% chance of selling. If you reduce, you've got a 56% chance of selling. So the updated data is actually 20% rather than 10%. But again, I think this graph is a very powerful visual to show that when you price correctly, evidently you are more likely to sell. It sounds obvious what we're saying this, but I think painting that picture to sellers just helps them better understand why it makes sense to price correctly from the outset. Same with time as well. So properties that go on at too much money end up reducing, take a lot longer to sell. And again, time kills price. So you can say to them, you might think going on at 520 is going to neg you down to 500. But actually, what it's going to do is take you 2-3 times as long to sell, reduce it, end up getting like 490. But if you went on at 500, maybe there's a bidding war and you get 510. Again, I know it's simple stuff, but just thought I would explain that there. Really interestingly, again, on the fall through side of things. So properties that have a price reduction are twice as likely to fall through. I've already said that. So imagine I'm a buyer and I'm buying a property. It's had reductions. And I think no one else wanted to buy it. Something else better comes along. I pull out of that transaction and I go buy something else. So the best thing to increase the chances of it going through to completion, Mr. Seller, is we get lots of demand and we have multiple choices of buyers. We want to give you the choice of which buyer you're going to sell your home to on that. And then what have we got? Number 8. So again, more likely to be lost to a competitor. So twice as likely to lose a listing to a competitor. So when you do reduce your listings, I should have mentioned this earlier, because it is going to happen. When you reduce your listings, make sure you remain in contact with that seller. Make sure that you're following through the plan, saying what you say you're going to, doing what you say you're going to do. Because if you, let's do an analogy here that I've used before. I say the property is 500,000 or the market points towards 500,000. The seller wants to go on at 525. In the end, we get it to drop to 500. You imagine price reduces to 500. a month goes by, the seller hears nothing from me. Do they think price was the issue, or do they think me as the agent was the issue? They're probably thinking the agent. If you maintain regular contact, so WhatsApp groups, WhatsApp updates, video updates, going through the Rightmove stats, social media performance, what other properties have sold, come off the market, reduced, that are competing with them, they're much more likely to stay with you, trust what you're saying, and then you're going to hopefully go through and sell that. Last year, what was it, about 53% of properties that came to market actually went through to sell. Imagine if that rate was more like 60, 65%, that can have a big impact on the bottom line of any estate agency business without necessarily having to increase costs, just by better vendor management. Now, on the point of vendor management, I can't remember where I would have heard this years before, but you've got back to the office, you have two voicemails. One is from someone who wants a valuation on £1 million property, and number two is an existing seller who wants you to phone them back. They're very disgruntled. Most estate agents are going to ring the £1 million valuation. You want to look after your own business before targeting the new one. Again, I think that's so paramount with only 53% of properties selling. So to flip that, you looking after the ones that you reduce the price. Again, those that reduce their price with another agent, go and target those properties. Show them that rather than just reducing their price, changing estate agents and changing marketing could actually be beneficial for them. I'm going to try and remember some data here from Spectre. I think their data had said that after 8 weeks, you're 34% more likely to sell a property by changing estate agents and get a higher price than just sticking and reducing. So again, put that in the marketing rather than just going in with reduction. Has your agent done Twilight, drone, professional photo, video, social media, paid ads, direct mail campaigns, etc., etc. You're not slagging off the other estate agents, but the seller is sat there thinking they haven't done any of that. So last couple of bits to run through. The timing of demand is a clear indicator of likelihood to reduce. I've already gone through this, but as you can see, if you don't get an inquiry in the first couple of weeks, there is going to be a much bigger chance, around about 50%, that you're going to reduce it. Where you get an inquiry on day one, it's only a 20% chance. So, Mr. Seller, we want to get you priced right from the start to get as much interest as possible. Page 11, there we go. So this one, I don't think I've discussed this yet, but again, really powerful data. So if you get an inquiry on day one, as you can see here from 5 years worth of data, whatever it is, maybe half a dozen years, you've got about an 80% chance of selling. If you do not get an inquiry in the first 2 weeks, you've got a 50-50 chance. So again, Mr. Seller, do you want an 80% chance of selling, or do you want a flip of a coin? Well, I want an 80% chance of selling, Simon. Right. That's why I need to get pricing right, marketing right. This is why we're not going to rush to market, because what's the saying? Speed to market doesn't equal speed to sale. So rather than rushing it, we're going to pre-launch it on socials. So it's on Instagram, it's on TikTok. We're going to put it on YouTube. We're going to test the market, get a feel for price, get that feedback, do some viewings. Then it launches to Rightmove. So it's a week or two. And again, when you show that level of detail, much more likely to do business with you and pay you a higher fee. Because if the other two agents have said, we can have it on today, we'll do it for 1%, including VAT, you need to show differentiation there. Because if you are very much the same and you just charge 0.25% more, they're going to go to cheaper option. Actually say we're 2% and this is why. That's very powerful. Just in terms of fees, I digress. If you say the investment in our services is 2% plus VAT, shut up at that point. Do not say, but we will reduce it on this occasion. So it's either it's 2% plus VAT and you shut up, or it's 2% plus VAT and, so remove the word but, replace it with and. And for that, you get an agent who is most likely to sell your property, get the best price, and do it in the quickest time. That's very, very powerful stuff. And then again, I've already said it, but the chances of a property going to a different estate agent on when the inquiries come in. So you've got to get it right from the start, get inquiries early on. It's less likely to change estate agents on that. So all in all, recap, price reductions continue to be on the rise as you've got a mismatch between seller and buyer expectations, agents who perhaps are still chasing business, they're lowering fees, they're increasing their valuations to try and keep up. But all this data has shown that it's actually a backward strategy. So going back to what I said earlier, there's 8 boxes you want to tick. Ideally, get 5 or 6 of them. If you tick those, take the business. If not, thanks, but no thanks, maybe get it second time round. I've said this a lot before, but around 18% of my sales were lost market appraisals or look at it as a win back. So I decided to not take that business to start with and got it further down the line when I'd seen bad estate agency somewhere else. And those sellers who came back to me also paid a higher fee as well. I hope that this recording has been of value to you. And if you've got any questions, anything you want to discuss further, please do reach out to me and I'll be very happy to help. Thanks for watching.